Hello everyone, it is the Survivor Simp here. My name is Xander, and once again I'm back to do another cast assessment for Australian Survivor. It's Season 12, Australian Survivor Redemption. We've got 4 attorneys, 20 eager newbies excited to redeem themselves and whatever fucking struggles they've had in life, and I'm going to be breaking it down. So for the first time in my cast assessment history, I do not have a co-host. I don't have someone to bounce shit off. So I don't know where this is gonna go. I don't have that much planned. I have a few things that I'm gonna cover for each of the castaways, and I'm gonna go into a few different topics for this cast assessment. But for the most part, we're just speaking, and we'll see what happens. So hopefully, I cover everything that I feel like covering, and it's a good watch for you guys. Do I like this theme? No, I mean, look, I think with a redemption type of season, you need to be able to actually see people and go, "Hey, I know you." Like if these were old people who we knew, I think it would be better. I also think realistically, for a third time player, what do people really need to redeem themselves from? Like for me, I'm one of those people who are like, unless you're playing like a legend season, I don't need people to come back 3 times. But you know what? That's my own personal bias. We're not gonna go too much into my survivor philosophy because we can do that another day. How I feel looking at this cast. I mean, realistically, I mean it's interesting because I think about how I wasn't casted and I think about how like I applied for this season, how theoretically I could have been on this cast. So I'm trying to think about who would I want to work with, who would I see as dangerous and whatever, who would I take the spot of. And I've already deducted that I probably would be like the Tez of the season. I'd probably just be like the super fan who knows everything. Then we'll go through winner equity. We'll go into what I determine as threat management, who I think has it. And then we'll also go into what I like about these people or what I'm worried about with these people. And then we'll also go into the edit. The edit is a major thing we will talk about the promos, what I think, what I've watched the first 5 minutes of the season that has aired, that they've shown us. I do also want to just say that before I do anything, I have heard rumors about multiple things that have happened this season. I don't know what's true. I haven't seen the season, but I am on Reddit, so just know that a lot of my opinions will be based on what I have deducted through Reddit, what I've heard, and my own personal like takes on what I think should or shouldn't happen based on these people and who I think they are. And at the end of the day, this is just a game, and the reality is I don't know any of these people. Not really. Like sitting down next to someone is completely different than watching them on TV. So everyone, please don't send any of these players hate because at the end of the day, they put themselves on national TV, and I don't agree with sending them death threats. Please let's not have a toxic survival world. As much as people say that gender doesn't really matter in Survivor or these reality type TV shows, it definitely does change how people perceive you. I definitely think that early on, the women are going to be seen as actually more of a liability when it comes to challenges. Even though, if you guys know anything about me, I hate people voting based on challenges because my logic is always like, well, you could just fucking use the immunity challenges anyways. And then also, even if you do use the immunity challenge, it's like, well, the people that you're keeping around to win challenges aren't really doing their job if you're only keeping them to win challenges. But that's just my own personal philosophy. So I know my opinion's different compared to a lot of people, where a lot of people are like, no, I'd rather just win a bunch of immunities. But for me, I'd rather have a bunch of people I trust than fucking win 12 immunities and then it's just like pointless if like they all just like kill each other, you know? The main thing we're gonna discuss right now is what do I think about David Gannett being the new host of Australian Survivor? Truthfully, good for you, dude. Like, I hope you kill it. But would he have been my first drafting choice? Probably not. But you know what? That's all I'm gonna say about it. There's a whole Reddit thread about David Gannett. Everyone's talking about it. I don't need to add to the dog pile that's going on. So, wish you the best of luck, dude. I hope you can represent. I believe you're from New York, so hopefully that works out for you. Anyways, I'm gonna going to go over how well I think each of these plays are going to do in the multiple categories that I just mentioned. So to start off with, we have Brooke. She's the top left. She's the only female returnee. She played Season 1 of Australian Survivor in 2016, and she also played All-Stars in 2020. Look, obviously Brooke has done pretty well in both of her seasons, so realistically, ignoring the returnee newbie dynamic, on paper, she should do pretty decently, right? There is a world where she could be seen as a threat, but we'll get into that later with the threat levels and stuff for all of these players. Realistically, she's good in challenges, she's likable, she's someone who I think a lot of people are naturally going to gravitate towards, and realistically, let's be honest, people were getting casted for the returnees this season. Production can say that they're not trying to help the returnees as much as they want, but the reality of the situation is they're trying to make sure the returnees do well, guys. Come on. Of course they want the returnees to do well. They're not going to want the 4 returnees to be the first 4 boots, right? They want us to be invested in their story. So I definitely believe that there's going to be either twists or advantages of things thrown into the game that will more likely or not benefit the returnees, which makes sense from a story arc perspective, but obviously, do I want the returnees to be handed a win? No, I want them to deserve it. And the thing with all 4 of these returnees is they're all people who I genuinely get why they're coming back, and they have been people who I have rooted for past. However, I need to take the emotion out of it. Realistically, yeah, I mean, who's gonna get rid of Brooke pre-merge? And it's not even because of win equity, which, as you guys know, if we were going by win equity, if I was out there, if there were 20 me's on this cast, all the returnees would be dead pre-merge, let me tell you. But you know what? That's fine. We have to go based on these players. And I actually have felt a lot of frustration thinking about that, which I know is dumb, right? Because these people aren't all super fans. Obviously, they haven't studied the game, they don't understand game theory, they don't understand what's optimal for them. But for me, as someone who's like a hardcore strategist and has played boards and LRGs and all of these things and studied the show and the edit and whatever the fuck else, right? It's like, the move is right there. Please make a good move. And I know that there's going to be some questionable gameplay that there is almost every season. But that's what we signed up for. And I'm going to be covering pretty much all of it, or as much as I can, depending on my burnout situation, throughout the season and afterwards, depending on the upload dates. Because let's be honest, guys, I'm a one-man team and bother to watch it. So, for Brooke, I think early on, we see in one of the promos she's standing in a group of females. That's great. That's great for her. Obviously, do I think everyone here understands that she naturally gravitates towards the women? Maybe not. I'm gonna go to each player. I'm gonna say pre-merge or post-merge, and I'm gonna say what placement I think they'll roughly just based on my initial impression and how well I think they'll do initially. Start off with Brooke. She is a merge lock. I just don't really see this cast taking Brooke out pre-merge. Like, as much as I think that they should, I just don't really see it. And I think that she has all the traits that have made her good in fight twice now in the past. So to say that she wouldn't have those traits again, unless something like super traumatic happened or dramatic happened in her life since then, I just don't believe that she wouldn't do well again. Brooke is the type of player where she's an endurance beast. She's naturally gonna be someone who people gravitate towards and want to work with. And who knows, there's definitely fans on this cast. I can definitely see fans wanting to work with her and thinking she's a badass. So that's part of the perspective there. She's definitely merged. Next, we have Simon. Simon is a hard one for me because I've gone back and forth. My initial reaction at the start before when I saw this cast was there's no way he isn't getting to, like, if 2 of the returnees are getting to pre-merge and 2 of them are getting post-merge, Carrie and Mark going pre-merge, Simon and Brooke going post-merge. But like, truthfully, I would be so scared to have Simon in the merge. Same with Brooke. But that's my own optimal gameplay strategy with equity shit, which a lot of these players are just not thinking about. They're thinking about, I want to win immunity, so I don't go to tribal. And they're probably a bit intimidated by the returnees, and they also want to play with the returnees because they're like, oh, I'm a fan, I like this returnee, which is what casting has definitely done. I refuse seems to be that casting has not put a bunch of people who they think will help the returnees succeed in this game. Because that is literally the point of inviting returnees back for this type of season. I definitely see a world where Simon gets to the merge. I think Simon is probably getting to the merge, even though I mean, I'm honestly going back and forth. You know what? Okay. I'm gonna have to make a choice. Pre-merge and post-merge. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say pre-merge. I think Simon will go pre-merge. I think getting him out pre-merge just makes more sense. If he does get to the post-merge, logically it makes more sense. I can see why he would get to the merge, but I just in my head. I can see why they would let Brooke get to the merge. I don't see why they would let Simon get to the merge. I don't know. The thing is, we don't know how well the returnees are all gonna do. They could all get to merge, right? Which is like fucking horrifying as like a spectator. Like, oh my god, why would you let all the returnees get to merge? That's crazy. But these people are gonna do what they're gonna do, and I have no idea what they're gonna do. Yeah, I'm gonna say pretty much for Simon. Next, we have Harry. Harry has had so much preseason content, and even though he got third place in his original season in 2019, and he came back for All Stars and got second boot at the merge, I literally see no world. I see literally no world where people keep him to merge. Not because they shouldn't. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Out of the two returnees, and with these four returnees, you definitely kill Brooke and Simon pre-merge trying to actually win the game. But these people don't they don't understand strategy and optimal gameplay. And maybe they do, and maybe I'm giving them not enough credit. But just based on like a generic normal cast for Australian Survivor who aren't like mega fans of the show and understand game theory, I literally see zero world where Harry gets to the merge. I love Harry and I want him to do well, but there is literally no way. I just don't see it. I know there was talks about him doing well. Actually, you know what? We'll get into that later. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. We'll just go pre-merge, post-merge for the rest of the people. Obviously, Harry has a reputation for being dirty, Harry, and yeah, obviously being talked about that at one of your first tribals is definitely a concern. Yeah, I definitely see Harry having a very tough road this season, let me tell you. Next, we have Mark. Mark is the most recent player who has played Australian Survivor from the returnees. He played Titans vs Rebels. Obviously, he got third place just like Harry, but he's also got this schemer vibe to him where it's one, recency bias. People are gonna look at Mark and naturally want to get rid of him, but just because he's perceived as more sneaky and sketchy. Like, if people get rid of, like, out of Simon and Harry, people are gonna want to keep Simon around, and out of Brooke and Mark, they're gonna want to get rid of Mark and keep Brooke, just based on trustworthiness alone, even if that isn't necessarily what's in their best interest. I think for Mark, there's literally zero world. And yes, all four attorneys get to the merge. I just don't see him getting to merge. He could get to the merge, but I genuinely think once we get to jury, Mark is gonna have an extremely hard time getting to anywhere close to the end. Even though, I mean, is that the best optimal strategy? Depends on the player and what game board is, the threat levels and everything. But we don't have that information. We're just going based on what we see and what we've heard so far. Next, we have Kat. Kat played the Traders New Zealand Season 2, and she did decently well. Just like everyone though, she had good reads and bad reads. I know that Kat is a very confrontational player. I do think that Kat can get a bit personal sometimes with certain people's motives. And I do worry that being on a format like the Traders where you are basically forced into being vocal about what your thoughts are will make Kat an instant pariah or someone who's like tossing shit out and just pissing people off and making herself a target. But you know what? That's fine. I mean, obviously, there have been people in the past who have done that, who play super aggressively and do well in the game. But with this cast, I don't really know how that's going to resonate with the other people. Next, we have Johnson. Mark, I said pre-merge. For Kat, I'm going to say pre-merge. Next, we have Johnson. Johnson, I I won't go too much into detail right now. We'll get into it later. Pre-merge. I love Johnson. I thought he was so fun on Big Brother Australia. I was really upset that he lost to Reggie, and I thought it was kind of bullshit that he didn't win. So I am like super excited because Johnson is giving a lot of things that I want in a newbie. However, it doesn't really matter what I want. It matters what we are shown and what is being portrayed and what is happening. And with this cast, I just feel like Johnson is going to flame out early. I just feel like Johnson is definitely going to get himself into trouble, regardless on if he should get in trouble or not. I mean, it is what it is. I have Johnson as pre-merge, even though I do think Johnson has Ferris upside. I really do. Even though I will say, I'm surprised that Kat doesn't have Kirby upside, but I don't think she does. I think Johnson has Ferris upside, and I can definitely see a world. I won't go too much into it right now, but I do see a world where Johnson is seen as like the Ferris of this season. I can definitely see a world where Mark looks at Johnson and goes, absolutely not, because they're on the same tribe. Anyways, so we continue on, and yeah, so Johnson's pretty much in my head initial reactions. Next, we have Dawn. Dawn is the brother of Matt Rogers. Matt Rogers played Season 3 Champions vs. Contenders, and then played All-Stars 5. How well will Matt... Not Matt Rogers. How well will Dawn Rogers do coming into the season? Obviously, the two big things, he's related to an ex-Survivor player who was seen as like a pretty solid player. I do think he is a bit hyped in the fandom, but you know what? It doesn't really matter because the reality of the situation is perception is reality, and people know who Dawn is. I mean, know who Matt is, then obviously that could make like the sporty people gravitate towards him, but it could also make like people feel like, oh, he's just a number full of attorneys, whatever. Even though I will say the two things that I'm most interested to see about Dawn, well, the three things. One, will people know that he is related to Matt Rogers? I have to believe that Brooke knows, right? You would assume so. And I would assume that Mark would figure it out, right? And then I would also assume that Harry could know too. So it's like this thing where it's like, I do see a world where Don is going to come out and say, well, Brooke, well, Harry, you voted out my brother. I definitely want me to go home, but mainly towards Brooke since Brooke is on his tribe. So I am hesitant to put Don super high because I think people are going to want to work with Brooke, and I think that Don, even if Don does appear to be super loyal, we won't get into his edit, but he is like, on paper, he looks like a very chill, loyal guy, and I can definitely see a world where people like underestimate him and are like, oh yeah, we've got him, and then he like tries to like clap them. And I can see a world where Brooke would be like, intimidated and be like, oh, he might come to me at some point, which is very viable. Because it's the same thing where it's like, if anyone voted out my brother in Survivor, obviously, I wouldn't throw my game away just to vote them out. But of course, there is the incentive of like, well, if I vote you out, then like, I got revenge for my brother. And since Brooke is a very revenge type sort of player, as we saw in All Stars, where she wanted to vote out Dick, I could definitely see a world where it's like this thing could happen, right? So I don't know what's gonna happen there. What I do know is Dawn is he also sings my favorite song, country. Well, not my favorite. When I was 15 years old, my favorite song was Old Town Road. So the idea that he was on The Voice Australia and sang Old Town Road is like absolutely hilarious. That made me stand him instantly. I'm a little bit concerned by his eagerness play, but you know what? Everyone's eager to play, so it doesn't really mean that much. I will say, just based on everything I've seen, he does give pre-merge, even though on paper, Don is the exact type of person you would want to go far with in most seasons. Don is probably a pre-merge player, if I had to guess right now. Next we have Aisha. Or Aisha. Next we have Aisha. She is like literally getting this like underdog edit I look at her, she's a physical person. She's someone who people are naturally gonna to survive with and want to keep around. I don't really see her going pre-merge. I think she's getting built up to be a post-merge character and a bit of an underdog. So I do suspect that she will be post-merge. So I think she will get to the merge. I do think for her, she has. I mean, honestly, I don't really have that much to say about her specifically. A lot of the stuff I have to say about most of these people is revolved around the later stuff that I'm gonna say. Obviously, she could win potentially. Post merge for Aisha. Next we have Jackson. He's post merge for me as well. I can see people naturally gravitating towards Jackson. I think people are going to want to have him there as like a loyal fucking vote, and they might see him as a bit of a dumbass. Is he a dumbass? I don't know, but we'll find out. I just feel like Jackson's gonna be post merge because I suspect that there's gonna be a very BLT vibe on purple, even though it literally is blue. But anyways, next we have Ben post merge. Right? You would think just based on this cast and based on what people would value, they would want to keep him around. But I honestly see Ben pissing a lot of people off. Like, maybe I'm wrong about that, but I feel like Ben, like, I looked on his Instagram, and I'm not saying that I know the types of people that these people are. Obviously, this is just perspective. But I do feel like people are gonna look at Ben and they're gonna go, wow, he hasn't matured since high school. And that's not like a bad thing, right? I mean, obviously, there are shades of high school in everyone. But that's just what I personally came to the conclusion of and observed. Obviously, I can be wrong. I will say, though, his sister is really funny. Like, I'm kind of upset that we didn't get to see his sister on the cast because he uploaded this thing with him and his sister, and his sister said something like really funny shit, and I was like, damn, like, wasted potential, but it is what it is. Next we have Sally. When I first saw Sally, I instantly thought she was a bit of a Karen, but then I actually looked online and I realized that she was a big fan of the show, and I was like, oh shit, fuck. That's another thing. I think there's a decent amount of fans on this cast. Cap's a fan, Donson's a fan, Donna's obviously a fan now. Jackson is friends with Matt, the same guy who was on the season with Harry from Champions vs Contenders 2, and so that's obviously a connection there. Sally is a fan. She is a childhood fan of the show, and I'm fucking stoked about it. I'm so excited. I love the idea of seeing fans live their dreams. That's something that I'm like super for. Like, if there was a movement, I'd be on it. I think the Sally, I don't think she's gonna get targeted early on. I definitely think there's a world. I think she's probably either late pre-merge or merge. But if I had to guess, I'm gonna go. I don't know. Where am I gonna go? I'm gonna go. I've got to make a decision, Xander. What is it? Wait, what did I say? What I thought Ben was gonna do? I think. Yeah. Hold up. Ben's gonna go. Ben's gonna get to merge, I think. I think Ben's gonna get to merge. Uh, for some reason, my gut's saying pre-merge. I'm gonna say pre-merge, even though Yoshiki, I could definitely see what worlds where Ben gets to merge. Sally, I think she's gonna get to pre. I think she's gonna go to merge. I think she's gonna get to merge, but I think she'll be at one of the first merge boots. Next, we have Tez. Tez has had like no fucking screen time at all, and I'm a massive Tez stan in the sense that like I am super rooting for him because I know how bad he wants to be out there as a super fan. However, like, oh, he's not been shown at all. Like, it can go one of two ways. I think either he'll get like a Charles edit and he'll get out pre-merge, or he'll go to merge and get like a Scott edit. Ugh, I don't know. I'm gonna go. Oh, I don't know. I'm gonna go pre-merge, even though I want him to get to merge. No, actually, no. I'll go merge. That Tez, I have faith in you. But yeah, I don't feel super solid about his chances, even if I do like him. I also want to say that like I do think there are a lot of good characters on this season. Let me tell you, there are a lot of people who I'm genuinely like invested in, which is interesting because like I first looked at his cast and for this entire like few months I haven't been that invested. So, but like the characters this season they're kind of fire. Like I'm actually really invested in pretty much every single person on this cast. Next we have Yindel. I think Yindel is merge, right? I just don't see a world where she's gonna get voted out pretty much. Um, unless something like horrible happens to her. Like, who's gonna vote her out? I just don't see it. Um, I have a feeling that she might become a player, but obviously, I mean, anyone could become a player. So who knows? Maybe not. I really hope that she isn't a passive follower. I hope she like, is proactive. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. Next, so yeah, I have Yindle as merch. Next, we have Yachty. As much as I want Yachty to go far, I just feel like pre-merge. I just feel it. I feel it in my bones. The stuff she's been posting on social media about how even when you can like move forward in life. I'm like, oh, you are like basically saying that you lost Survivor and like the worst way possible because you're like, oh, it's fine if you fail at life, and I agree, it's fine if you lose, but obviously that's not something I want to see right before you yeah, play a strange survivor. It definitely makes me think you're trying to like justify you failing at the game. Which doesn't mean it was necessarily her fault, but yeah, just perception wise, I think she's waiting for the blowback from the fans. Because she's going out swinging, coming for the returnees, which is fine. As you guys have heard, I think that's a very optimal strategy, and I fully support it. But obviously, there's a few things she does need to consider first. But anyways, um, she's giving super loud energy. I think she's gonna get herself into trouble, just that cat. So I'm gonna go pretty much. Next, we have Daniel. Merge. Merge or late pre-merge. I think he's gonna be a character for sure. He's definitely gonna be either like a Noonan sort of figure, or he's gonna be someone who people he's gonna get to like top 8 and he's gonna naturally 10 to top 8 or top like 7 where people are gonna wanna work with him. But no, I'm gonna say 10 to top 8. I'm gonna say he's gonna get like 8th place. No, no, no. I think he'll get like 10th. Yeah, I think he'll get like 10th place where he's gonna go decently far, but yeah, like, he's he's gonna get voted out. I just feel it. I can already see it. Him getting to merge somehow, and then him getting voted out. So I'm gonna say merge for Daniel. Because they're building up his character. Next we have Bianca. I literally, when I tell you she's one of the people who I know literally almost nothing about, even with the cast bios, I literally like have seen almost nothing about her. Like obviously I know what she does for a living and stuff, but yeah, like unless she's seen as like someone who is an easy beat, I have her pre-merge. I just don't think people are going to want to protect her that much unless they think that they can beat her, which means that her win equity is not that high. But obviously that's a later issue. Um, but I'm gonna say pre-merge, even though if I was out there, I'd probably drag Bianca really far into the season. Next, we have Eliza. Um, on paper, she has everything to be a winner, but that's like my problem with her. Um, I either see her going late pre-merge or getting out super early merge or getting to maybe being like a Kirby figure, but Yeah, realistically, I think she's gonna go late pre-merge, early merge. So, or she'll get like a ninth or something. Either way, I think that she's going to be a character and a figure, or she'll get like purpled, right? Like one of these big things. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna say that Yaz is gonna get to the merge. Uh, nah, yeah, I think Yaz will get to the merge. Next, we have Cameron, pretty merge. This dude, who's gonna want to first stand in the merge? Fucking no one. He doesn't have the incentive like the other attorney of the returnees do, where you keep them in for challenges and as like a, you have to take them out later as a shield thing. For him, it's like no, Cameron is not. Like I can definitely see a world where Cameron is just not moldable to a lot of the female players' games, and I definitely think that people are not going to want to burst that at the merge. I think they're definitely going to cut him. Um, I also want to change my opinion. I don't know if I did change it or not, but I do think that Ben will be pre-merge. I think I'm going to change that. I think he'll be late pre-merge as well. But I think that Cameron, I just don't see a world where he gets to the merge. I just don't see, or if he does, he's just going to be one of the first few out at merge. Next, we have Polya. I guess he's like a Jaden figure where he stays around a little bit but then gets cut. Like, but I don't think so. I think Cameron is pre-merge for sure. Next, we have Polya merge. She's a fan of the show. Um, she is someone who people aren't going to look at naturally with this cast and be like, "Oh, we got to get her out." Um, she's someone who's been applying for a while, so I'm excited to see her, and I'm definitely rooting for her. Um, I do feel that just looking at her tribe, I feel like people are going to naturally be more like she'll look scary, I think, later on in the game, but early on, I don't think people are going to be looking at her at all. Um, so I have merged for Polya. Even though I will say, I did feel a little bit of annoyance vibes from her. So hopefully that's like not that's not the case. But we'll see what happens. Next we have Faith. Faith better have fucking faith because like pretty much I want Faith to do well, but I feel like Faith is just going to get taken out pretty much. Like who like what even if she does get to the merge, I just feel like she's gonna get taken out. I just see it. I see her getting taken out. I don't see why people wouldn't take her out. Like Faith just looks like a scary player. Just look at her. Like I don't know how to describe it, but some people just have that thing of like they are scary and you need to deal with them. And I definitely see Faith being seen as like a social threat and then just like getting taken out. Next, so yeah, I have faith as pretty merge. Even though on paper, her getting the merge makes sense, I think that I have her pretty merge. Next, we have, yeah, I think most of the time Faith gets to the merge, but I do think with this specific season, she does get pre merge. Next, we have Caleb merge. Who's gonna vote this guy out? Like, they're not gonna vote him out. He's not really seen as a threat. He's very growy. He kind of comes across like Kayan, but instead way less gamey. I feel like Kayan had some upside. I don't really feel like Caleb does. I feel like Caleb is kind of like that guy who didn't really know what he wanted to do when he graduated high school, and now he's a truck driver, and that's not a bad thing necessarily, but I don't think that he's going to be someone who people respect in the end, but obviously that's a later problem. I think that Caleb is someone who people are going to want to naturally work with him. They're going to be like, he's a vote. I can use Caleb. So I would not be surprised if he gets to the merge. I'm going to say merge for him. Next we have Richard. Originally, I had him as pretty merge, but the more I watch him, the more I think that I could see it world where he makes it to merge, but I think I'm going to have him as. What am I gonna do for him? I'm gonna say I don't know actually. Richard's a weird one because on paper he comes across like a douche. But I was watching some stuff of him and I was like I don't know, I think he could come across as not that like bad. I'm gonna say pre-merge though, just because he's a boss, like a CEO, and I can definitely see a world where people either hear about it or you look at the way that he dresses and the way he talks and thinks that he's like trying to dictate shit. So I'm gonna say pre-merge for Richard. Even though I could definitely see a world where he gets to the merge. Next we have Keely merge. Yok for merge. She doesn't appear that dangerous. She kind of gives vanilla a little bit from Champions vs Contenders, someone who will be in this like shoddy vanilla pairing potentially. I don't know who her shoddy will be, but I just get the sense that people are going to be like, she's likable, but she's harmless. I feel very optimistic about Achilles' chances, and I know she's a fan of the show. Next, we have Yoz. Yoz is. I'm going to go. I don't know. What am I going to say for Yoz? I'm going to say. Well, you look at the cast, Sander. What do you see? I'm going to go. I'm gonna go Merc for Yoz. I think Yoz has some upside. I think she can definitely go into that role of like the older woman mother figure. And I think she can definitely be seen as like a lower threat than the other people. So I have more potential for her to go far, and people can probably beat her in challenges, and that's probably what they can think about later on. But obviously, I don't know what their perspectives are. So that's the cast discussed. So the next thing that we're going to discuss is win equity. I'm going to go through all of their win equities. But before we do that, let's go into the returnees real quick. So how do I think the returnees are going to have as targets? Well, obviously, if I was out there, I would obliterate all the returnees almost instantly or as soon as it benefits me. If I wasn't running my original tribe, I would get them out. But obviously, it would depend on positioning, right, and how I did a game and whatever else. But yeah, I think for Brooke, her win equity is high. Hi, you do not want to sit next to this girl in the end. Do not sit next to her. Holy shit, do not take her far. She's gonna win out. She's gonna win immunity. She's gonna win every fucking immunity. Whatever. It is what it is. Same with Simon. Fucking cut him. Do not let him get to an end game. Do not. High win equity. Very likable. Respected. Can play into the I fucked up twice. I didn't fuck up my third time. Do not give him that story arc. Do not. Next is Harry. If Harry gets to the end, I feel so confident in his win equity. I feel like so many people would be impressed with how well he's done. But I think he has high win equity, but the problem is I just don't think he's gonna get there. I don't see it. He doesn't have this Simon and Brooke challenge endurance upside. To be fair, I'm going based on just his history I've seen in challenges. Hopefully he doesn't, get to Final Three and use immunity again. That would be arse. Next is Mark. Same problem with Harry's is the same problem with Mark. Super senior, schemy. Definitely can win the game, I think. But I just feel like people are not going to be as receptive to Mark as they were his original season. And I also feel like for Mark, I do see a world where Mark could use in a final two in a way of he could be a better player than someone, but he isn't super respected. Not because he plays bad, but because people are bitter or because they don't want a returnee to win or whatever fucking reason, right? So he has the same problems that Harry has, but he does have win equity. Obviously, he's a returnee, so the four returnees have more win equity than the other people. Next, we have Cat. I just don't really feel that Cat is going to be respected. Even if she gets to the end, I see her definitely rubbing people the wrong way. So that's not super great. Um, it's not that I don't think she's a good player. I just think that realistically, people are gonna look at her and just be like, "Ugh, I don't want to give you the money." And being likable is like a hard trait in these types of shows. Next, we have Johnson. On paper, he has big win equity. He has a decent amount of win equity, but I just don't feel like he's going to win because he's going to go for the returnees, and these people are not going to be receptive to that because he's going to gun for the returnees, which is what he did in Big Brother Australia. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't fucking do that or consider doing that, but like, based on the promos and what I have seen, I do not think he is in. I do not see him getting past pre-merge, yet he owns one of his first few tribals. Next, we have Dawn. I think Dawn does have win equity. Obviously, he's related to a pastor Yamanae who's played Survivor. However, that isn't going to carry him on his own. He could be a very likable guy, but he would have to sit next to someone who is unlikable. He's also trying to play his villain role, which, for the record, I love villains in Survivor and Big Brother and these reality TV shows. I love villains. I want more of them. But I am a bit like, oh, dude, I don't know if you playing the villain role is the type of thing you should be doing because I think the way that you win this game is not by being a villain. Next we have, but yeah, there's definitely win equity there for Dawn, but I just feel like he's not likey. I can see more times than not him using in the final two against a decent amount of people. And also, he can't win his way to the end. He can't win. Like, maybe he can win challenges, but like, just based on just what I've seen, I don't think he's going to be very good in endurance. Next, we have Aisha. Or Aisha. Next, we have Aisha. And she is the exact type of person you would want. I think she has massive win equity. I really do. I feel like people are gonna want to give her the money. I feel like she's the type of player where she's a threat, but she's respected, but she's not too threatening. So I think people like she's definitely, yeah, has the ability to win. I also think being able to pitch that you are a POC and that you want to win, be the first POC to win Australian Survivor outside of like Miles is also a very compelling point. Like, to be like, I did it for every black woman out there. No, 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 whatever. I say whatever not because I don't care, but because you guys get the gist of it. Like, these are my reasons why I should win. I grew up in this, da 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 da, whatever. Obviously, I don't know her full backstory, but I do know that people are gonna be compelled to vote for who they think they want to win. And I could definitely see a world where they go, "Congratulations, like thank you for winning." Well, good job, you know. Next about Jackson. Jackson can win, but I have him like probably middle of the road. I just feel like Jackson is someone who is going to have uh very, I don't know if he will be respected arc. Maybe he will be more respected than I think he will be, but just based on who most of the people in this cast, I just feel like he's gonna be less respected than them. So we'll see what happens. Next we have Ben. Ben, I people have said that they think he can win. I don't really see it. I feel like Ben is not that likable. I feel like his personality is going to get on people. It's going to rub people the wrong way. Um, but who knows? Obviously, when you're out there, it's completely different than what you see online. So I don't know. Um, Even though I do think his ADHD quirks could be endearing to people, so he should play into that. So there is win equity there, but I don't think it's as high as a lot of people think it is. I think it's a lot lower than people think it is. Next we have Sally. I she could win, but I just don't. I don't see it. I don't really see her winning this season. Her win equity, I think it's pretty low. I think she'd have to make some big moves because otherwise she's just going to be overshadowed by a lot of people. Um, but hey, hopefully she proves me wrong. Let's go Tez. The win equity is there. The problem is he looks like a gamer. He looks like a super fan. He looks like someone who can win, and that's like the problem. But if he does get to the end, obviously the win equity is there for sure. But I could also see him being like a Raymond, where he could use in the end, not because he doesn't know what to do and he doesn't make the cuts that he needs to cut, but just because of the way it could play out. Um, he's 24 too, so I don't know. Obviously, I'm 21, so he's a little bit older than me. But people, as much as I don't want age to be a factor, people do fucking care about that shit. They do go, "Oh, what is this guy going to do with the money?" No, 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 whatever. So hopefully that doesn't go into it. Next, we have Yindle. Very high with equity. If they're going based on likability alone, I think she's probably one of, if not the top contender to win this season. The problem is obviously I feel like a lot of people are gonna know she's likable and she's gonna get taken out at some point. But I think Yindle could definitely have like a flick from season 6 arc where she like has so much potential to win as this likable person even if she was a bit cutthroat, I just don't really see her using against the other people. Obviously, it depends because we know that it's the final two. It's basically been guaranteed on the line that it's the final two. So obviously, final two, it's gonna assumably be one person who can actually win the game and one person who can't. That's the mindset I'm thinking about it when I look at this cast. Obviously, crazier things have happened, but that's just my perspective. Next, we have Yachty. I don't know. I feel like Yachty could definitely win, but I also feel like people could definitely take it the wrong way with Yachty. I think she could be seen as a bit abrasive, and I think that she could rub some people the wrong way. Obviously, I like Yachty, but I just feel like a lot of people might not agree with the way that she played the game. But who knows? Like, we literally have almost nothing to base any of this game on. So, there's real Daniel. Daniel, he's definitely got the endearing factor going for him when it comes to win equity. He's clearly a fan of the show. The problem is everyone knows he's a fan of the show because you look at him, and also like I'm kind of giving like someone who could make the end game but might not be respected. Maybe like a Matt from season 7. From Heroes vs. Villains, Matt. I kind of get that arc from him too. Maybe it's because he looks sort of similar. I'm not really sure. But I hope not. I hope he doesn't have that happen to him. Because I know he's a fan of the show. I could definitely see it be a thing where it's sort of like a Miles, where it's like originally he's not super respected, but over time he becomes respected. Yeah, obviously, I don't know what's going to happen this season. Next, we have Bianch. Her win equity is so low. It's giving Shangle, but without strategic gameplay. Like, maybe she has some things happening in her head, but if she can't explain that to people, then she's just not winning this season. Like, I look at her, and she just looks like 95% of using finalists. She just does. Like, and I know that's super ageist and biased and stuff, but if I'm looking at her like that, just from like a I look at her and I'm like, she's like not winning. It's like that's not great. But being underestimated is a good skill in Survivor. It's actually the thing that I care about most when it comes to threat management. So she does have really good upside. However, I think she's gonna have trouble getting the respect of the jury. So she needs to not be carried. But I don't know how she's not gonna be seen as carried unless she's like seen as the likable older woman, like a Shangul, where they earn respect, or they just don't want people to win the action and they vote for her to win instead. But I have her win equity pretty low. Next to Eliza. I feel like Eliza will be super respected if she gets to the end. The problem is, I feel like she's like an obvious front. In my eyes, you look at Eliza and you're like, that's one of the front runners. So I don't see her getting to the end. But if she does get to the end, obviously, I'm assuming she would have played a well-rounded game, and I feel like most of the time she does win in the final two because she is a storyteller, and that's like literally her job. And also, she just looks like someone who can like say arguments back to back to back and give a compelling why she did what she did thing, while appearing pretty calm and likable at the same time. I also know that she's a girly pop. That's what she said on Instagram. So if I have to guess, that probably means that she's a girl's girl. So I can definitely see a bunch of women in the jury being like girl power. So I mean, you know, good for her. Obviously, I'm the type of person who's like, I don't really care what gender you are, just fucking play the game. But it is what it is. Next we have Cameron. He could be seen as likable, but I don't really see the upside for him. I think most of the time people look at him and go, I like you as a person, but game wise, you didn't really do that much. Obviously, I can be wrong about these people, but that's just what I think. I think his win equity is like pretty low. I think it's above Bianchi's, but I don't think it's that high. I think he uses against a decent amount of the people on this cast, and that's not very good. Like, I think his bottom, I think he's like at least bottom five, which isn't that, that's not great. Um, Out of 24 people, bottom five is not that good. Next, we have Polar. She definitely can win. I definitely could see her using in the final two as well. I feel like the Polar, um, she kind of gives Baden energy from Baden Gilbert from Australian Survivor Champions First Contenders. So that kind of worries me. Champions First Contenders 2. So that kind of worries me because um, even if I thought Baden played pretty decently, the reality is I don't know if she'll get the respect as a jury. Um, I definitely, as I said before, I think she could rub the people the wrong way, but I could also see a world where she like makes like a Marianne esque US move, and she's like surprising people, and they're like, "Yo, sick! That was awesome! You did that shit! Fuck yeah, Polya!" So yeah, I mean, hopefully for her sake she does that. Next we have Beck. High win equity. The problem is, I think people are going to see her as a threat. They're going to take her out. I just feel like in my eyes, she's such an obvious front runner for a newbie. So I feel like when you look at them, just initial reaction, I felt you look at Faith and she looks like the strongest, one of the strongest female newbies. Just not even just physically, just like as like a person of the game, like that's the type of person who people are going to want to win this game, which is horrible for people, but great for her. I think she has very high yak ability, and I think as long as she doesn't play this loyal integrity game, which I don't think she will, based on the fact that she came into the game and basically said that none of the returners had won, um, in like the 5 minutes that we have seen of the episode that has been posted online, I'm super like amused by it. But I just feel like they're gonna look at her and be like, "Oh, she knows what she's doing. She's dangerous." But yeah, decent win equity. If you have Caleb, Caleb has like very little win equity. I feel like Caleb is going to be seen as a joke on this cast, and that's obviously a lot of perception. Obviously, there's things that he can do to make himself more seen as a well-rounded player, more endearing. But I know he's not a fan of the show. I feel like I I'm worried. I'm worried for this dude. I really am. It's like watching someone fuck up and you know they're gonna fuck up and you're like, please don't fuck up. So it's gonna be like a slow burn process season. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hope if he does win I would be like very impressed. But I feel like the only person he could beat would either have to be like a Bianc or like I don't know, someone would have to do something pretty terribly wrong for Caleb to win. Um, but I mean, he's probably a nice guy, so I don't have an issue with him. Next we have Richard. I don't know if people are gonna want to vote a CEO to win again. I say again, like he's already won, but to win a bunch of money. I could definitely see a world where people respect him, but I could also see a world where they go, "You're a bit arrogant," and he could use them to end like Yadir in season one, where it's like you're kind of a dick, even if he maybe is or isn't a dick. It doesn't really matter. It's just a perception of how he comes across. Um, I don't know how good his personal skills are. He's living a completely different life to most people. Like most people are working a 9 to 5, and he's. I'm not saying he doesn't work a 9 to 5, but he definitely doesn't struggle as much as the normal person. So I am, which to be fair is definitely like not his fault, but I do worry about how much he can relate to people, sort of like a Kent from Brains vs Brawn. but Rangers Brawn too. But hopefully, I think he has more upside than Kent does. Next we have Keely. Win equity, I think her win equity, I think she could win like a Pia Miranda sort of arc, but I I don't really see it. I feel like a lot of the time she's gonna get overshadowed by a lot of people. So I'm gonna have her as like she can win, but I don't know if she can win as much as I think that she wants to win. Because I think those are the two different categories. Um, Next we have Yoz. Well, I say finally we have Yoz. But with equity, Yoz is someone who she's likable, but I just don't really see people voting for her to win. Like, um, I don't know. I just don't really see people wanting her to win. Like, maybe I'm wrong, but like if I'm out there, I'd be like, yeah, I really like Yoz, but I guess someone did something absolutely horrible in the game. I'm like, well, you didn't really have to do that much, did you? Because your threat level was automatically super low. Like, where it's like, am I going to give credit to someone for getting through the game for not having a threat level based on pre-assumptions? I don't know, man. Like, but obviously these aren't all super fans. I don't know what the fuck they value. All right, so we've gone through win equity. Um, yeah, I've kind of gone for threat level. Threat level wise, Brooke is fucking massive threat level. Simon's massive threat level. Harren's massive threat level. Mark is a pretty decent threat, but on the end, I could definitely see him being probably pinned as the most scary returnee, even though he fucking shouldn't be. Him or Harry will be. Well, it's really weird where the two attorneys who I think shouldn't be as threatening are going to be seen as more threatening, even though Brooke and Simon have more win equity, in my opinion, and can actually win out. But it's crazy how this game works. And I'm a spectator. I don't get to help these people make fucking decisions in this game. Next we have Cat. Cat. I think threat level. Um, I mean, I think her threat level is just gonna be pretty high, but I think that she's gonna flame out. I really do. I mean, I've already gone over pretty much everyone. I think Johnson's fucking someone who's gonna be pretty scary to play with. I wouldn't want to play against Johnson, but at the same time, he would be someone I definitely need to cut at some point. Don, he looks pretty harmless, but he wants to play as a villain. Aisha, you know what? I've already gone over this. We don't need to do this. We're just gonna continue on. Next, we have who can I win? Who do I think can actually win? Um, well, with this cast, I'm gonna go and what everything I've seen. The main people who I think can win currently are Brooke, Harry, Aisha, Aisha, um, uh, Aisha, Jackson, Has, Yindle, Ayaza, Haley, and that's about it. I think everyone else doesn't really stand a chance at winning this season. But if we're going based on the edit, this is the thing that I've been really wanting to talk about like the entire time. Based on the edit, trying to piece things together about the boot orders and whatever. So now we're going to talk about the alliances and real predictions. Okay, so real predictions and alliances. For the alliances, alright, we're back. Sorry, my ring light fell down. Anyways, for the alliances, right? I feel like I will edit who's on what tribe afterwards. so you guys can see who's on what tribe. But I think the alliance-wise, I mean, obviously the returnees are naturally going to gravitate towards each other. How long will they actually work together? I have no fucking idea. But they're all going to want to take each other out at some point. So I don't think the returnee alliance is something that is super stable with the four of them. And also, they're obviously going to be paired all together as a group. It's like, well, we can't get all four of them get to merge. Oh, why did it undo? Sorry, guys. Alright, we're back. Sorry, I don't know what happened. My ring light was having some issues. So, I just don't think people are gonna let all four attorneys get to the merge. I also don't think they're gonna let all four attorneys get together. I also think the four attorneys will kill each other at some point, even if they should ride it out till like final 7 or something, or final 6. But they won't, because they will either get cut or they'll turn on each other. Next, what else do I think? I mean, more predictions. Like, I think Johnson is fucked. I think Johnson is so screwed, dude. He's primed for first boot. He was arguing with Kat in one of the promos at Tribal Councils, and he threw me into the fire, and Kat was like, "Of course I did, because you threw yourself into the fire." I'm like, one, Kat, you are doing way too much. This is why you're going to go out pre-merge. And two, Johnson, dude, I'm assuming you gunned for Mark, which we saw in our promo where you said Mighty Mark is gonna go down or whatever the fuck you said. Doesn't really matter. Regardless, Kat Johnson pre-merge, you guys are gonna get yourselves killed. It sucks to watch. I'm not excited to see it because I think they're two of the better newbies to be put on the cast, but it is what it is. um, I do think that on Green Tribe, Brooke and Mark will fight each other to take control of the tribe a little bit. But I do think that overall, um, it won't really matter who's in control because they'll both probably make it to swap realistically, just based on what my head is telling me and the promos and my gut and what the story is trying to tell. Where Mark is purely trying to have like a pre-merge set up as like a king and then a downfall in the pre-merge, and Brooke is purely trying to be built as like a long-term player who people are going to want to keep around. I've also heard rumors about the Edged Final 2 between Jackson and Caleb on Reddit, so that's kind of crazy. I've also heard a rumored final 6 of a few different people with there was a photo circulating of a rumored final 6 of certain players with Brooke, um Polya, Jackson, Caleb, and 2 others, one of which I believe is Keely and one of which is, I believe, either Yoz or Bianc, but I'm not 100% sure. And I also think one of, well, no, not Yoz or Bianc, and one of them is, I mean, one of them might be, and one of them is, I believe, either Ben or Polly, or not Polly, Richard. Who the fuck is Polly? Polly's not a person. It's because I was thinking of their Big Brother 18. But one is either Ben or Richard as well. Unless it's Taz, but I don't think so. Um, Obviously, I will be putting spoilers up on the video, so hopefully no one gets spoiled. But I mean, obviously, I don't know what's true. I mean, this is just a photo, but I'm assuming it's real. Um, what else? We've got the wise women with Faith, Sally, and Keely. I mean, great, but this alliance is totally not lasting. Like, you guys are going to either turn on each other or break up. It's not going to be the middle-aged mafia. I know there were people talking about how they thought they were going to be like the middle-aged mafia, where they thought they'd do this. Well, I'm not saying they might not get to merge. I think they could all get to merge, potentially, as I said, except for Faith maybe might get cut early. But I mean, maybe Faith could get to merge. I said that before, but I do feel like Faith, Sally, and Keely. I mean, making a young just basically being women and being wise. Yeah, that's not gonna end well. um, I do think on view, the divide will be boys versus girls for the most part. I think Yoz and Richard will link up as like a duo. I think Aisha and Yachty will link up. I think Yachty will get blindsided pretty much, and I think Aisha will be an underdog that goes into the merge. I think Daniel, um, he's kind of like a middle player. He's gonna be like floating around, doing way too much. Cameron and Jackson will be linked up. I think obviously. I think um, what else do I think is gonna happen? I think there's gonna be some sort of power alliance initially with Jackson, Cameron, um, Yachty, Aisha. I think that they're all naturally going to gravitate towards each other. I think Polya and Eliza will also naturally gravitate towards the majority. That will be like the majority six, I think. But obviously, I think they'll get broken up. And I also think that, like, they won't actually be a six. It'll more just be like on paper, this is what their show wants you to think is happening, but really, this isn't happening. I think that there will be a girls frac um fraction on the tribe too. I think Yachty, Pola, Aish- Aisha, I think they'll all work with each other. I could say guys are trying to get in with them. I think there's potential for Richie to get taken out and like pre-merge super early, and I could definitely see a world where like everyone boots Cameron, boots Richard, and then Harry throws Simon under the bus, and then Simon goes out. Because one of the promos was Harry talking about how he was gonna do the dirty. Like one of the promos was like the dirtiest move in this game, and it was selling Harry. And it's like there's nothing dirtier than throwing Dada or Kenny under the bus, who's your number one. You can't be more dirty, especially because Simon has had this history of having his coach's allies fuck him over time and time again. So I think Harry saying, I have this going to do terrible things. It's like, just do it. Just fucking toss him under the bus. Do I think it's the best move? Doesn't really matter. He's doing it. I think that's gonna happen. It doesn't really matter. Um, I think Johnson is gonna gun for Mark on green. I think Mark and Brooke will hear about it and obviously get Johnson out. Um, because the Sienda anti-returnees. I think Keely Johnson went to Kat and said you have to be anti-returning, and Kat said fuck no. Um, I think that Dawn is gonna be super close to Mark. I think Dawn and Mark are gonna really bond the Exhibia age. I think that Hez is gonna want to work with Faith and Keely and who the fuck's that? Sally. I think Tez will be around then. I think Tez will also want to work with Brooke. He'll probably um, initially want to work with the returnees, but later on will want to differentiate himself, obviously. I think that there's going to be, I'm assuming, some sort of boys alliance with Mark, Don, Caleb, and Tez, but I think more realistically, I think that won't last. I think what will last will be a Johnson, Caleb, Ben sort of crew, but I think that will instantly break up when Johnson goes out, like first from this tribe or second or whatever the fuck, doesn't really matter. I think that Bianca's gonna be just a number. I really do. I think Bianca's gonna be someone who people just like either keep in the game or just vote out because no one's fucking coaching. She's not good in challenges. I think that Have I not spoken about anyone specifically? I think Yachty and Simon could be close. At least that's what the edit seems to be making it seem like, is based on who's sitting next to who. I also feel like Yachty might have been throwing around Jackson's name a bit, and then it caught up to her, because obviously there'd be conversations about what happens once the returnees get out. And I think that could get back to Jackson bite her, which is why Daniel was throwing a bunch of names out early on. Which, by the way, if you're on this type of season, maybe you don't feel the need to throw out a bunch of fucking names. Like, other people will do that for you. Because obviously, if you throw out people's names and they hear it, they're just going to be, oh, well, I'm going to target you then. So that's not fucking great. Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. I guess the only other word I could see is like a Yachty Polya being super tight, and then Yachty Polya Simon trying to work together, and then maybe Harry. That could be a contingent, but even then, I mean, Yachty said she literally wanted to get rid of one of the attorneys, so I feel like Yachty is probably going out fucking first on B. If it's not Cameron. Or like Richard or yours or yours. Yeah, it'll probably be one of them. Like in my head, it's like it's first person voted out, Johnson. Second person voted out, uh, who the fuck? Yeah, Cat. Third person voted out. I don't think Cat will be second out, but it could. You never know. Third person voted out. Cameron. Fourth person voted out. Richard. Fifth person voted out. Yachty. Like any of these fucking people, like doesn't really matter the order. I just see like all of them going pretty much for the most part. Next person voted out. Simon. Like that's what I think will happen. It won't be the specific order, but it'll be pretty accurate. Um, Obviously, we see that Brooke is super close to Faith and Keely. Obviously, I hope that Keely and Faith are yeeting her on, because, yeah, obviously, Brooke should not be your main alliance in this type of season. Absolutely not, because you're going to have to kind of, at some point. Uh, I think. I feel like Tez is gonna want to work with the returnees, or at least Brooke. I see it. Tez was so like on Instagram. Tez was like talking at the St. Kilda Festival. Like, I think this one is one of the best gays to not get enough credit. It's like, why do you think that? Oh, because she fucking does well? Okay, called out. Anyways. Um, yeah, obviously, I think Brooke will be the last returnee just based on the photo I've seen, and also just based on logic. I think she'll be seen as the least dangerous, even if she's debatably probably the most dangerous returnee by far, in my eyes. Um, Especially because out of the four returnees, I feel like Brooke is probably the most likely to fear for me. No, like I feel like Brooke is the most like coming into with the mindset that she has now. I feel like she's the most likely to fuck you over. Because I feel like the returnees are going to play pretty scared. I know Simon did an interview with Drop Your Buffs where he spoke about how like he wanted to keep the easy early boots, but the problem is he's the easy early boot with Harry. So I'm not really sure where he thinks he's going with that. Maybe he thinks that he'll get to protect like a Richard or a Yoz, maybe. I'm not really sure. Um yeah. Have I got anything else to say about these people? No, I don't think so. Um, I do think Donna's gonna try to get Brooke out though at some point, and I think it's gonna fail, and I think Brooke will outlast Donna. Um, do I think that Harry will get Simon out? Yeah, I do. I think he'll be a really dirty move, or I think he'll try to get Simon out and it'll fail, and Harry will get voted out, and Simon will be like, "Wow, why the fuck do I keep having a terrible allies?" Either way, it'll be entertaining. Um, because I originally had Simon pegged as first boot on this cast from View, but after seeing the most recent promo where it shows that he has supposedly survived the tribal council, because it shows him wearing two different clothing pieces of clothing at two different tribals. So clearly he survived one tribal, or he there was a non-elimination. So I'm assuming either Green tribe goes on a massive using streak and just keeps using, or they go on a using streak and then Simon is like taken out like pretty much instantly on the outside of like Yachty maybe, which would make sense because Aisha, not Aisha, because would Aisha wouldn't be on board with that because her and fucking Yachty are like this, and in one of the promos they were talking about how scary Harry was, or how scary the attorneys were in general. They were talking mad game, and obviously you don't throw out names like that unless you guys like really trust each other. At least in my opinion. Um, and also they've got like sort of similar matching hats, so I can definitely see a lot of people pin them together perception wise. Mm, I think online Sally made a post about how either Ben was going to be her best friend or her worstie. Um, her words, not mine. I think originally I thought that they were going to be besties, and I used to think they do, but now I'm kind of thinking that they're gonna be enemies, but I don't know why they would be enemies. So I'm curious to see how that's gonna play out. Um, Next, I feel like Keely is gonna turn on the wise women. I don't know. Keely just gives me that vibe where she's like, I want to be the silent assassin. It's like, all right, so you want to be a solo player. You want to turn on the wise women, or that's the vibe I got. Um, hopefully it's interesting. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about this cast. I'm gonna be so fucking honest. Like, I think those are really all my predictions and thoughts. I don't really have much else to go on. But anyways, thank you all for watching. Like, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and till next time. And also, I just want to say to any of the Yamani watching this is all just based on what I've seen. I don't know any of you guys. If I said anything negative about you guys, I can be totally wrong. I wish you all the best of luck, and may the best win. I hope you guys make a really good season.